the crescent moon. On top of that, there's various things that can happen that can impede the crescent moon to be, sighted. So obviously, for example, the weather, but not so obvious is what happens is when the moon meets the sun every single month, it varies like where it is. And I don't think there's really a pattern. It seems to be sort of close, but it's really like, it's kind of random. It's a little bit random. It's like sort of in the same area, but it kind of changes month to month, okay? So sometimes the moon is way too close to the sun. Sometimes it's actually pretty far. And so when it's farther, okay, so the limit usually you can view it at around 2% illumination to 5%, all right? That's kind of the window. And so when the moon is, and some people have reported sighting it with the naked eye at 1%, okay? And so it really depends on how far the moon is away from the sun, and it has to be also above it, okay? So when the sun sets, then the light is not scattering through the atmosphere, and so the crescent would be able to be viewed very easily. But even if it's like a higher percentage of illumination, but it's closer, then by the time the sun sets, it's like pretty much setting. It's way too low, way too, blasted out. You can't really see it, right? And so another thing too to consider is the time from when the new moon ends, like the 0.00 phase ends, until the evening when it's supposed to be viewed, all right? And sometimes the new moon ends too close, so that by the time evening comes, not enough time has passed. It's a very, very young moon, all right? This is science, okay? So you guys can look this up on your own, all right? And so there are other times where the new moon ends at just the right time, so a lot of time is able to pass by, and it's less of a... Sorry, there's somebody's calling. And my kid is playing, sorry. There's a lot more time for it to grow, and so it's easier to... So there's all these factors that would contribute to being able to see it. And so this is why it's really important that every single month you consider when the start is, okay? You cannot use a computer because everything gets thrown off. Now, here's the thing. I'm not gonna name names of websites, but there are certain websites and resources for Christians or people who, pursue this type of stuff to go onto and to see, from other parts of the world, like when in Jerusalem things are sighted, all right? And there's a really major one that multiple other websites use to reference their sightings and their witnesses and their proof photo, of when, and they say this is when the new month is. And I know for a fact, I'm not going to get too into it, that they're incorrect. And I don't know what happened, but photos were submitted, and those photos are physically impossible. The photo, there's, a single photo that was submitted for this month that we're in right now, end of May, right? And this photo is physically impossible. And I'll go over some of the reasons why, because this really matters. But first, let me quickly finish up the February 15 thing and why I brought that up again. So God has been showing me, he is counting by the crescent moon. And I know there's a lot of debate about this and thoughts about it. And I've come to the realization that he does, all right? And so I'll tell you why I still got February 15 properly. And when you calculate it using the crescent moon and manually finding out when the crescent is visible in Jerusalem on a certain day, why it still equals the midnight cry. And this is what's, according to statistics and math and all these things, it should not be, but it is. So it had to have been designed by God, and I'll go through it. And then after that, I'll get into when this month started and the proof of that. And that is really important too. Please watch the video. It's really important too because it's going to set up everything else that I talk about. So it's going to set up everything else that I talk about. It's going to be very mind-blowing. This is going to be, in my opinion, one of the most encouraging things about the signs in the heavens for the soon rapture. Like, I cannot believe what the Holy Spirit has just put on me. I really want to share it with you guys because I know you guys just love to be encouraged, and it's amazing. So let me set it up and be patient with me. I promise you it's all very important, all right? Okay, so first I want to start off with, how likely do you think that if I did it with the new crescent, the start of the month, very carefully finding out when it would change the day by 1 or 2 days, okay? Before or after or whatever. And so because the factors in the formula have changed slightly, the likelihood of me still getting 25.6 is not very high. How likely do you think it is that it would be the same answer? All right? So what happened was, I manually looked into the start of, it would be the first new moon after February 15, okay, because that would be the equivalent of saying 12 a.m., all right? So I'm looking for that day, and I'm finding out the middle of the night on that day. And remember I said the middle of the night changes every single night, all right? So I was very, very nervous to do this because I thought that if I did this, I want to pursue truth over everything. And I was worried that it wouldn't get 25.6, the midnight cry. And I was prepared to be extremely disappointed. Like, is God really giving me February 15? Is this all just a mess? I'm very, very stickler for all, even to the decimal point, as you can tell by this video, I'm rambling about all the math and everything, okay? And some people love that, so I'm very glad for that. So I found out the start of that month, okay, after the February 15, and it was it was February 21st, all right? So that would be the equivalent of 12 a.m. on the Mazzaroth. And so I looked when the sun was right in the perfectly centered with a meridian, okay? So that's right in the middle of the night. And that was 52 minutes into the hour. So remember, the first calculation I did was 53. So it changed 1, and I was already disappointed because I was like, this is not going to be the right answer. Because I told you, I did a flow chart of all the different variations, and they weren't, none of them was that answer. And so let me just turn around and show you, it might help. So remember, this was the old midnight cry. As you can see, it's 53 minutes over 60. And there's the answer, right? When I did it all out, 29 is the number of days in a month. So I'm trying to find out how many days into the month would be the equivalent of 1153, all right? And so the answer was 25.616, which is amazing because it equals 25.6, even if you round it properly, right? Because it would be still rounded. It's below 5. Well, it's below 4. It's 4 and under, right? And so, like I said, I did kind of like a variation because as you get away from the February 15 date, these variations would be bigger and bigger and bigger. So I just did around the February 15 date and, for example, 52 minutes into the 11:52, 11:53, 11:54, but then I changed the amount of days in the month there's still 29 days, but instead I did 54, so 11:54. So every single answer is not the midnight cry. And then, let me scroll down. So this is the new one. So it's February 21st. It's changed, and it's 52 minutes into the hour. So I was like, oh no, if I put it in, it's going to be wrong. But here's what happened. So here's the thing. So when when I was